God of War Ragnarok was a masterpiece in of itself, and the fact that Santamonica dropped the news that we're getting a DLC that nobody expected, by the way, Valhalla, is absolutely incredible, and a huge credit to the devs working on this DLC as well for not leaking anything, because we know that it does happen. Kratos went from being very hesitant about accepting the role as the God of War on Freya's Peace Council to facing his past in Valhalla and his former self, and becoming at peace with it. He's comfortable with the person that he's became as opposed to who he once was, and he won't be pulled back and turned back into that person that he became in Greece. However, in today's video, I wanted to talk about if there was any other possibility for a more God of War Ragnarok DLC on the horizon. Look, I don't think we're going to be getting told by Santamonica if we're going to get a DLC. Hell, I don't even think we're going to be leaked anything like we did with Valhalla. We've now covered Kratos. Could we potentially now be covering Atreus? Atreus went off at the end of the game to look for the giants, to bring them all back. Why not have a DLC similar to this, where Atreus is looking for the giants and we find out exactly what happened to them? And this potentially also teases and leads into the next mythology for the next God of War, whenever that may be, probably when the new PlayStation releases in like 2027. Anyway, we're going to recap Atreus' story in this video as well, and talk more about the point at the end as to whether we think Atreus' DLC would be even worth Santamonica doing. If you do go on to enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, it'd be very much appreciated. Subscribe if you guys are brand new to the channel as well, and of course comment down below what it is that you think. Do you think there will be an additional DLC for God of War Ragnarok, or is this the last DLC and the only DLC that we're going to get for it? But without further ado everyone, let's dive straight in to the recap. It all starts at the beginning of Ragnarok, when we find out that Atreus is holding some form of marble and can see that the developers are putting emphasis on this section, hiding it away from Kratos at the beginning of the game, with of course us not knowing why. However, moving even further back towards the end of the first game, Atreus finds out that he's a giant, and so was his mother Faye. Kratos nor Atreus had any idea of this, so to seek answers he decided to search for the closest thing to the giants, to maybe find out if he knows what the prophecy might be, or just find out more about himself, the person all over the tales of Midgard, and potential peace between the 9 realms. This was the God of War, Tyr. Before the events of Ragnarok, Atreus was searching for Tyr, trying to find out where he might be held or if he was still alive. He never told Kratos that he was doing this, as Kratos is very overly protective and would probably want to join him to the hip on this journey and not let him out of his sight throughout, so Atreus thought that it would be best to try and search for them himself. Atreus would come across and search for multiple shrines across Midgard, and he came across one in particular which actually opened when he touched it, and inside revealed that Tyr was imprisoned somewhere in one of the 9 realms, but it didn't give away as to where. However, within this shrine, Atreus also finds this marble that he was holding at the beginning of the game, intrigued by it, so he picked it up and kept it by his side ever since. Now fast forwarding on later into the game, Atreus falls asleep, and as he does, he grasps the marble hard in both hands and mutters, "Ironwood." Ironwood was the location that Jormungandr mentioned when Atreus and Sindri visited him at the beginning of Ragnarok, with Mimir mentioning later on that this is a fictional place and that it does not exist. However, when Atreus mutters Ironwood in his sleep whilst holding this marble, he suddenly wakes up somewhere unexpected, Jotunheim. Atreus then moves forward and meets a girl named Angrboda. It turns out that Ironwood was in fact a real place, but it was never discussed outside of Jotunheim or outside of the giant circle, due to the fear that Odin might find it, enter and of course take over and kill all the giants within Jotunheim. Angrboda's destiny was to deliver Atreus, or Loki as the giants known him by, his destiny. And fast forwarding slightly, this is where Atreus finds the missing piece to his shrine within the Jotunheim temple above the 3 peaks, where his father dies and where Atreus, or Loki, joins forces with Odin. However, this is where we get into the more juicy stuff. Angrboda takes Atreus to a place in Jotunheim just outside of Ironwood, where she hands him a bag within a rock. Within this bag it contains more of these marbles, the same one that was found in the shrine that Atreus went to at the beginning of the game. Atreus mentions this to Angrboda, that he's also found one of these marbles within a shrine, in which she seems very, very surprised. Angrboda tells Atreus that these are not left behind by the giants, but these are in fact the giants. The giants decided a long time ago that rather than running and hiding in fear from Odin, It was here that, of course, they found peace and they could finally rest and not live in fear every day that Odin might turn up any second and kill them all. Angrboda's parents had left the marbles behind and given them to Angrboda to eventually give to Loki when he turns up and comes to Ironwood, as they knew that the prophecy stated that he would know exactly what to do with them when the time came. The first thing Atreus tries to do with the bag of souls would be to transfer one into a snake. It turns out that Angrboda's grandmother would capture animals and take their souls so that she could live their greatest memories and moments, taking away the grieving nature of her son being killed. It was here that Atreus found the snake and transferred a giant's soul into it. However, Angrboda mentions when we meet her a little bit further into the game that it turns out that this snake that we transferred this giant's soul into was growing drastically in size, being one of the last remaining giants. This snake turns out to be Jormungandr, the world serpent, the one that we spoke to at the beginning of the first game. Now, if you guys want a video explaining exactly how this works, then I'm more than happy to do so, because a lot of people are probably very confused about why Jormungandr was in the first game when Atreus was a kid, but yet born in the second game, but yet we'd already spoken to him at the beginning of the second game. So if you want a video of that, it's very confusing, let me know, more than happy to do that. Fast forwarding to the end of the game, Atreus mentions to Kratos that he knows what he must do, and that's free the rest of the giants. The bag given to him by Angrboda was full of giant souls, in which he wanted to set them all free. Atreus was the reason for the birth of Jormungandr and countless other giants around the Nine Realms as well. His journey had to be done alone, travelling to Ironwood and Jotunheim and populating the realms with giant souls, bringing them all back now that Odin has finally gone. As ultimately, that was the main reason they all hidden away, right? So this results in visiting all of the shrines around the Nine Realms, just generally visiting Jotunheim and searching Ironwood for any more of these marbles where the giants may have hid them or left them there. And once they've found, return all of the souls to different bodies, whether that's wildlife or whether that's people with no souls, whatever it might be. It's bringing the giants back into the Nine Realms and specifically into Jotunheim. And now that Tyr has been free as well, this is probably going to be a big thing when Atreus finds out that Tyr is actually back. And you never know, this could be a big driving force in bringing the giants back for good. So, now we've got that out of the way, do we think that we'll see an Atreus DLC? Well, Santamonica had this to say when Valhalla was released. Sony Santa Monica confirms more story is on the way after God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. You really think that the Valhalla credits are the end of the story? Come on now. Now this could mean two things. One being what I suspected it means, that the story between Mimir and Sigrun was the thing that carried on after the credits and essentially fleshed out what we saw. Links are on screen to that video, by the way. It's very interesting and it may tease how we find out about the next mythology. Or number two, we could be getting another DLC to cap off the story before the next game launches, potentially an Atreus DLC. We know of three main characters on different journeys across the globe from Ragnarok. We've got Atreus, who was looking for the giants, not just in Jotunheim, but also across the Nine Realms, and I think he may even travel across the globe as well. We have Tyr, who we know for a fact has travelled across the globe and ultimately explored many different countries, many different mythologies, picking up different weaponry, different armour sets and clothing along the way, even carrying out traditional movements and things like he would if he was travelling across the world to these different mythologies. Then finally, we have Sigrun. As we learned towards the end of the game, Sigrun left Valhalla and the Valkyries in order to go off and find herself again. She wanted to explore the globe on her own, figure out who she was as a person again. After flying into Valhalla when she wasn't really supposed to in order to save Kratos and Mimir, Valhalla needed Sigrun to complete a series of challenges to essentially prove that she was worthy of being allowed back in when she eventually does die. She wasn't ready for that commitment right now, especially because the risks involved were most likely death. So she wanted to explore the world first, and on the back of that, it was potentially where we find out where the next mythology goes. We'll have to wait and see. I think there's many different directions that Santa Monica could go with an Atreus DLC. I think that we could even stay in the Nine Realms. We could reuse a lot of the assets from that. There wouldn't need to be any need for them to really recreate anything, or like they did with Valhalla, create an entire new world. we could maybe just follow Atreus' journey into Jotunheim, find the giants, and then potentially find them scattered around in these different shrines like we did throughout the Ragnarok story. Throughout that, we learn about what the giants are about, why they went into hiding. We kind of know a little bit as to why they did, so that Odin couldn't kill them as such. But, you know, really get into the depth and the detail as to why and learn more lore about it. Potentially even learn more about Faye, because we don't know an awful lot about Faye. We know she was a giant. We know that she was a warrior of some sort. Potentially she's related to Thor as well, which, by the way, a video on screen again, it's madness when you really look into it. There's a lot of stuff here that we don't know. And I think a DLC could be really good at maybe not fleshing it out completely and giving it all away, but adding more mystery behind Faye. Adding more mystery behind the relationship that she potentially had with Thor. How she was who she was. If it's me, I think that personally Faye is related to Thor. And I think that Atreus is related to the likes of Odin, Thor, and all of those as well, which would make him an Asgardian in some cases. But also Faye was part giant. Potentially one of Odin's previous lovers was that. And I don't know, but this is just me theorizing and thinking on the spot. But there's so much that we could really learn about this. And yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below, everyone. Do you think that the next God of War Ragnarok DLC, if there will be one, will be an Atreus DLC? If it's not Atreus DLC, who do you think it will be? Could it be from the perspective of Sigrun? Could it be from Mimir's perspective? Obviously, Kratos and Mimir. Santamonica, will they give us one last piece of the pie before the next game? I really hope so. But guys, that is going to be it for today's video. Really hope you have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below what you think. Will there be an additional Atreus DLC? If not, will this be the final DLC, Valhalla, for God of War Ragnarok? Leave a like if you have enjoyed, everyone. Take care. Speak to you guys next time.